Good morning. All right, good morning. Welcome to First Parish Brewster. It is so good to be with all of you this morning. Here we cultivate liberating love by, how do we do that, you guys? Do you remember? Living with mindful intention, practicing kindness, and serving needs greater than our own. That's how we do it. It's our monthly worship theme this month of repair. If you are visiting for the first time, I'd like to invite you to make your way to coffee hour after the service so we can greet you more appropriately. And I'd also like to invite you to fill out one of the cards that is in front of you in your pew so you can find out more about the congregation as well. Would you please all take out your cell phones for a minute and turn them off? And I have two announcements. If you are new and you've been coming for a little while, or if you're brand new today, we are offering a UU 101 class, which is a little bit about what Unitarian Universalism is all about. It'll be in the library, which is right down the hall from here at about 11:15, 11:20. Please join us for that. And also, we have just started our holiday fair events. Yesterday, the bidding and buying started for the online auction. There are over 100 offerings to choose from. If you have a chance, not received any invitation to access the catalog, please see Debbie Klein. Debbie, can you raise your hand? There's Debbie. She will be at coffee hour. She can help set that all up for you, okay? Next Saturday in the parish room and on the front lawn is our in-person holiday fair featuring baked goods, decorations, fresh wreaths, craft goods, and holiday decor. The fair is in need, though, by the way, of gently loved holiday decorations. Please no overly loved holiday decorations. But if you have some gently loved holiday decorations, I know they would love them. Again, you can stop by and talk to Debbie at coffee hour. Would you please take a deep breath in with me now? And join with me in the spirit of worship.
Love in the darkest dark. There's only one way to mend the broken. only one way to mend a broken heart. Take me to the place where I feel no shame. Take me where courage doesn't need a name. Learning how to cry is the hardest part. There's only one way to mend a broken heart.
Good morning. I grew up with dance as my sport, so I can do things like this. That's in heels, by the way. I'm a little dizzy. I shouldn't have done that. Okay, anyway. I grew up with one of my best friends, Debbie, who went on to start a dance studio. Now, Debbie grew up in a small town outside of Madison called Deerfield, and it's a farming community. She grew up on a farm herself, and, it's one of those towns that has a manicured center lawn, and everybody goes to the football games on Friday night, and the farmers have many different crops, everything from tobacco to soybeans and alfalfa and corn. Anyway, when Debbie decided that she wanted to start this dance studio, she was a little worried about whether or not it would fly if she didn't have boys in the dance studio in a small town. Like, could you just pull it off with just only girls, right? So she decided that for any boy who wanted to take dance, she would offer him dance class an entire year free. What happened? She had a ton of boys showing up at her dance studio, and they fell in love with dance. So much so that by the time the end of the year would come, and their dads, who are farmers, who are showing up and watching their sons dance on a stage at a recital, they were like, oh, I guess I'll pay for this now, going forward. Now, the thing that happened that she didn't really expect out of all of this was this. Boys tend to be riskier, take more chances, try moves that girls wouldn't do necessarily. So as boys are moving through her dance studio and being riskier, trying harder moves, more complicated things, it made the girls have more faith in themselves and be riskier as well. She has more boys in that dance studio than all 5 dance studios around her combined. That's pretty amazing. Reminds me of how there's like a contagion of faith, right? Debbie had faith that if she offered free dance lessons to boys, that they would come and they'd stay. That led to boys having faith in themselves that if they risked something and showed up in a way that, they kind of enjoyed themselves, that they'd stay. Which had faith in girls that if they tried something riskier, they would show up. I think that's one of the reasons we come to church. Because there's something about faith that has a holy contagion to it, right? The idea that when we are in times of trouble, which some of us could say is right now, right? Times of trouble, we have to have faith that we are going to show up for each other and be support and comfort and kind of power to the people all together. Am I right? Right. So welcome to our congregation of sacred faith leapers. Before you sing your first hymn, would you please rise and greet your neighbor with enthusiasm?
Good morning. Let's sing together. Our opening song, our opening hymn will be from the gray hymnal. It's 126, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. But here's the thing. We are going to only sing verses 2 and 3, so you get to just skip verse 1 all together.
This is why we do the second service.
Want to come up and light the chalice?
Together this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs, we light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning in celebration of the life we share together. Would you please join with me in reciting our affirmation? We believe in love.
Love is the doctrine of this church.
We believe in truth.
The quest for truth is its sacrament.
We believe in helping others.
And service is our prayer.
We believe in the sacredness of life.
To the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine.
I'm really glad to see you today. So downstairs, we're learning about values. Jet pig, justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. But today and this month, the grown-ups are learning about repair. So who knows what repair is? Yes. Fixing something. So if you pop a button off your shirt, what would you do to repair it?
Sew it back together.
Sew it on. So how many of you already know how to sew? So some of you might, but the rest of us
us are still learning. And how about if a leg comes off your chair? How would you repair it? Nails, so you could hammer it back on. And how many people already know how to use a hammer and a nail? And the rest of us are still learning. So we often need to know how to repair something. Sometimes what is broken is a relationship. The good feelings between two people disappear. Like when your friend grabs something away from you without asking, how would you feel then? Sad. Yeah, you could feel sad or mad or surprised. And how about when you are mean or lose your temper at someone? How do you think they would feel? Maybe sad. Yeah, they would be sad or mad or scared. So I'm going to ask the grown-ups. How many of you have lost your temper at someone when there could have been a different solution? See, that happens to everyone. And how many grown-ups have a relationship that they would like to repair? So everyone is thinking about getting those good feelings back. I think you guys already know some ways to repair a relationship. What do you think? Nobody? Well, I know that you know at least one way to repair a relationship because I've heard you say sorry. I've heard you say sorry and mean it to each other when you broke something or when you hurt someone's feelings. But sometimes we are so mad, we don't want to repair. We forget the good person that we really are inside, and we lose sight of how to repair. I want to tell you a legend about a tribe in Africa and how they handle this. When a woman and a man make a baby and the woman gets pregnant, the people go into the forest and they meditate and they pray and they dream and they hear the child's song inside of them. So everyone has a song that reminds them who they are, a precious, kind human being, full of love and aliveness, and an important member of the community. We are not born selfish or mean. The tribe sings the song to the child when they are born, and the child learns the song too. And then they sing the song at special occasions, weddings and birthdays, and when a soul leaves the world. Let's say Yo-Yo is a kid in the tribe and makes a big, mean mistake and doesn't repair it. Yo-Yo feels lost and full of big feelings. Now, no matter what Yo-Yo did, the tribe will not punish them. They all gather in a circle and sing Yo-Yo's song. They know Yo-Yo was born a good person, and they just have to remind Yo-Yo who they are. So just like that tribe, we should remember that our community knows who we really are. We know who you guys really are. Now, every single one of us is not always good or kind, but we can repair our mistakes. And if we forget, the community can help us. I have 2 more stories about Africa. So a scientist went there to study how people get along. He put a big basket of fruit under a tree, and the kids were hanging around, and he told them, I want you to have a race, and whoever gets to the tree first gets the whole basket of fruit. And to his surprise, the kids all joined hands and ran together to the tree and got there at exactly the same time. And he asked them, why did you do that? And they yelled at him this word, Ubuntu. And he said, what does that mean? And they said, that means, I am because you are. So basically, they told him, we cannot live without each other. Now, my teacher Dan told me another story, and he went to Africa to visit a different tribe. They had flimsy shelters and little food, and he was shocked at how poor they were. And he asked them how, and he saw how they were laughing and smiling. And so he asked them, how can you be so happy when your life is so hard? And they said to him, because we belong. So you guys can always remember who you are. You matter. You are a kind, loved, and loving human. We all make mistakes, and we can repair. But sometimes we can feel lost and forget who we are and how to repair. But we have our community, our family, our friends, and this church, our church, who will stand around us and remind us that we all belong to each other. So let's sing the children out.
The time in our service where we offer our heartfelt gratitude to organizations in our community and beyond that share our values and are doing good work in the world. This morning's offering is a split plate with the Family Table Collaborative, whose mission is to produce and deliver nutritious free meals to families and individuals struggling with food insecurity, and to educate them about the way healthy food positively impacts people's physical and mental health. This organization was nominated by our Building a Bigger Table task force. Let us be reminded that the religious person is the grateful person is the generous person. We'll now take the offering mindfully and gratefully.
The choir is going to sing a piece all in German this morning, and it's a prayer. And the words for the prayer, essentially translated from German, are, grant us peace, God, for our times. It is indeed none other than you who can defend us, for thou art, alone, actually. Sorry, the translation in here is not quite right for the German. Denn du unser Gott, other than you, God, alone. So grant us peace.
Please join with me in the spirit of prayer and meditation, followed by some shared silence. I invite you to get comfortable in your seat and take a deep breath in with me now. And let us turn inward together. Autumn, we know, is life en route to death. The asters are but harbingers of frost. The trees flaunting their colors at the sky. In other times we'll follow where the leaves have fallen, and so shall we. Yet other lives will come. So may we know, accept, embrace the mystery of life we hold a while. Not mourn that it outgrows each separate self, but still rejoice that we may have our day. Lift high our colors to the sky and give in our time fresh glory to the earth. May the silence we hold with a leaf blower continue to hold and heal us all. Amen. On the day after election, a week and a half ago, I held a Vespers service, which was so wonderful to have so many of you here all together. You remember at that Vespers service, I reminded us that it is often our first impulse to go to fixing and analyzing what happened rather than just feeling. If in grief you were to go to a therapist, they would tell you first to locate kind of where you're feeling things in your body and pay attention to that first before you move on to the other aspects of grief. So what I wanted to do at that Vespers service was obviously talk about where we're feeling everything and just be present in that. And then I told all of you, like a ding-dong, I don't know why I did this, but I told you I would move to analyzing and thinking through fixing what happened. So for the last week, I have read more things and listened to more podcasts and kind of been engaged in all of this in ways that kind of make my heart and my head hurt a little bit. Though I'm guessing likely all of you have done about the same thing that I've been doing. And you, like me, may be finding that this is far more complex than it looks like on the surface, right? And as I was going for a walk this week, thinking about all of this, it occurred to me that there was no way I was going to outthink someone like David Brooks, you know, who's the conservative writer, or I was going to kind of maneuver the filmmaker Michael Moore, or, you know, get to the historical gravitas of someone like Heather Cox Richardson, or even get to the nuances of class and the income divide like Robert Reich. But here's the thing. All of those people, in their own way, offered a different lens to what happened with this election, right? And if my job were to be a policy wonk or a political commentator, that would be so helpful right now. But I'm not those things. I'm just a minister. So it's not really my work or my unique lens that I can bring to this as a minister. So I've decided to go in a different direction. And it occurred to me that we just introduced this new mission statement, which I just put out to you guys in opening words, and you were like, what is it again? Okay, so here it is, right? It is, we cultivate liberating love by living with mindful intention, practicing kindness, and serving needs greater than our own. You got it? Okay. Be mindful, be kind, be of service. 3 lenses that I think, actually, we can use for our living and loving that are relevant to our own time and place right now and the political milieu of which we find ourselves in. And again, I think we can use this not just of who we are or aspirational, but as a means to think through how we are called to see the world as our unique lens. So, I offer up some thoughts regarding the spiritual challenge I think we have in front of us by using our mission as a lens. And my hope is to look at this not only as like your first blush approach to when you think of like living mindfully, what is that? I want us to go a little deeper and underneath that. So let's start with living with mindful intention. Be mindful. Usually we think of this as an engagement with the present moment, of focusing us on not living in the past or thinking through the future, but really being present to what's in front of us, whatever that is. We're here now. Some religious traditions, that's actually their entire focus, right? And in some ways, it's some of what we did at that Vesper service. I got all of you to really think through all the feelings that you had going on in that moment, right? Some of you were there. Okay, I know this is irritating, but you have to at least remind me you're in the room with me, okay? Okay, good. Okay, anyway, so I had you go to that piece of feeling, right? And I asked you to really think through what feeling was kind of stinging you the most. And then think through where it was happening in your body so that you could send love and care to that place. And it seems to me that is one way of addressing mindful attention to something, of being mindful, right? It's one way. It also seems to me we're going to have to rinse and repeat that over and over and over again, right? But as I said, I want to get to something deeper here, and the way that I can think of getting there is by telling you this. I want to explain something that happened to me in therapy once, that a therapist once taught me. She was trying to get me to see that mindfulness isn't just about being in the present moment, it's also about noticing all the ways in which our mind plays tricks on us and leads us astray. One of the things that I was working on in therapy, and I'm always a little embarrassed that I tell you guys these things, like, you're not telling me all the things you're working on in therapy, but okay. It has a point to it. One of the things I was working on in therapy is it seemed to me every time my husband and I got in a fight, it was always about who was winning or losing in that fight, right? And how I saw what was happening to us as an argument about who won or who lost. And I told my therapist it felt like that's what was going on, that there needed to be a clear winner or loser. Now, when I talked to my husband about it, who's sitting in the back row right now, he said, that's not really it. I'm not trying to figure out who is the winner or loser. You are, Karen. Which was a little irritating, but that's beside the point, right? Okay. I went to therapy to try and figure this out. Now, how I was stuck possibly in a pattern of seeing arguments as being only about winners and losers. And one of the things she had me do was to be completely in the moment when we were starting to have an argument brew and kind of take myself and watch myself, almost like an out-of-body experience, not make any comments about it in my head or what I was doing or analyze it while it's going on, just watch what you're doing, Karen. Almost like you're watching two other people get in an argument, and I'm pointing at both of you that you are in an argument right now, but like if I were watching the two of them in an argument, but you're watching yourself. And sure enough, it helped me see something. More than I was willing to admit, he was right. He was the one actually trying to garner a joint sense of understanding and a way out for both of us. And I was, trying to be the winner in the argument, which frankly, it's not really that helpful. But this practice actually taught me was profound. It gave me humility. It gave me the opportunity to come to terms with something that was a little more instructional to my own and my husband's well-being. I began to understand that the call of mindfulness is not just to be present in the moment, but also to be present to my own foibles as well. It was a call to brave self-awareness and humility. A call to notice how our first instinct, often for all of us, I'm not just the only one, in the midst of conflict and stress, is to turn the spotlight of our awareness on them, the opponent, how they have contributed to the mess in front of us, and how terrible and evil and bad they are. And yet, when I can understand that mindfulness and humility go hand in hand, it helps me turn the spotlight on myself and try to figure out my contribution to the problem and the mess. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, so I was thinking through all of this, and I was thinking, well, that's a personal example of it, but I wonder if it might make sense to do that with mindfulness in the greater political milieu right now. In other words, to have mindfulness and humility kind of tied together, especially on the Democratic side. Whether we want to admit it or not, Democrats have become the party of the educated elite. And working class people of all races have turned to the Republican side. We Democrats, as I am one, have prided ourselves on being the party of the working class for years. And if we are really honest with ourselves, in the last 40 years, we haven't truthfully done much to raise the minimum wage for people, or bring back manufacturing jobs, or help shore up labor unions and the labor workforce. We haven't pushed for education to be more than just a send-off to college or end up with a GED. We haven't done any good in working through kind of expanding skilled labor or trade opportunities within the educational system. And we haven't managed to listen to the pain and anger over losing work that paid well, work that gave people pride and purpose. Now, I've talked a lot, a couple of times, I guess, in the last year about that wonderful book by Desmond Matthew Desmond called Poverty by America. Not poverty in America, but poverty by America. And he rightfully does this like really condemning kind of piece at the middle and upper class at not being honest about the number of welfare benefits we get, welfare handouts we get as middle class people. 401ks, IRAs, health insurance, 529 college plans, mortgage interest are benefits for those already in the middle or upper class. If I am working class, by the way, I often don't have a job that even offers any of those things. And if I'm renting, I don't get the benefit of a mortgage interest. So, until liberals are honest about the difference between their benefits and those of the working class, then frankly, we aren't going to address this divide at all. And I want you to know that this next part is indeed something I have done too, so I'm speaking for myself, so I'm not doing this to all of you. I'm kind of looking at myself here, okay? When talking about the working class over the last decade or so, we liberals get ourselves tangled up. We haven't really listened to the complaining and worrying of the working class that well. We may start out listening, but then we get hooked by some language that they are saying that we think automatically is like indignantly on the side of being sexist or racist. And at best, we think they are backward, and at worst, we think they are bigoted and hateful. Their worry or concern actually gets lost in a language war. And we shut out the worry so much that when working class people vote against what we think there is against their self-interest, we are flabbergasted by their choices. We say to ourselves, what could possibly be wrong with them? I mean, couldn't they see what they are doing? How stupid is that? And yet the reality is we've walled ourselves off from their pain. One of the best pieces of advice I think I ever got in the ministry is this idea that if you don't let people say they hurt, they'll say they hate. If you don't let people say they hurt, they'll say they hate. We didn't listen. We cut out their pain, and in so doing, they moved from being hurt to saying they hate. But friends, it doesn't just stop there, right? When I said we've walled ourselves off from their pain, we've also done it in very concrete ways. I read recently that in the last 10 years, we on the left, people who are progressive or Democrats, the educated elite, give less to charitable organizations that often help the poor and working class, far less than we have in the past. We, in point of fact, are starting to hoard. Once we got ours, we stopped paying attention to the needs of others. Truth is, we aren't as righteous in our living and loving as we want to think we are. We aren't as generous as we think we are. And then to add insult to injury, we condescend. It's our version of trash talking, but it's been particularly harmful. Hillary, if you remember, called Trump's supporters what? What did Joe Biden just call his supporters? Garbage. But if liberals are honest, and I mean really honest, Clinton and Biden are just voicing what all of us were thinking. If you guys don't want to admit that, I'm going to admit that, because I thought that. None of us were really upset on the left when Hillary and Trump supporters when Hillary said Trump supporters were deplorables. Instead, I think our first response, I know mine was, I can't believe she said that out loud. Rather than, oh my God, what have we become? Our first response, I'm going to say that again, our first response was, I can't believe she said that out loud, when our response probably should have been, what have we become? What kind of ugliness am I taking on to believe that? And friends, until we get to this place of being shocked that we only see the other side as garbage and deplorable, there's little hope of addressing the division in our country. If we don't have an honest conversation with ourselves and come to terms with this, nothing is going to change. This, it seems to me, is what the mindful part of our mission statement is asking us to make sure we put the spotlight on us and our contribution to the division, not just on the so-called them. That may sound like an easy and obvious thing, but in practice is much, much harder than we often admit. I want to turn to the second part of our mission, which is about practicing kindness. Be kind. So Michael Moore wrote this wonderful piece about the 9 things he's going to start doing now after the election. And one of the pieces that he lifted up was practicing kindness. He wrote this: the first step in counteracting Trump's crusade of cruelty, hatred, bigotry, misogyny, ignorance, and fear is for each of us in our daily lives to be kind, to live by the ancient code of philo. Be kind, for everyone you encounter is quietly carrying a great burden. And to paraphrase something Jesse Jackson once explained to me, ignorance and prejudice create a paralyzing and irrational, out-of-control fear. Fear for the other, fear for the different, fear for the new. Fear leads to hate. Hate leads to violence. So in order not to end up with violence, ignorance and stupidity must be the first to go. So perform at least one act of kindness each day. You will instantly make a small piece of this world a better place. I love that. Then I found this fabulous poem by this woman named Danusha Lamaris called Small Kindnesses, and she wrote this. I've been thinking about the way when you walk down a crowded aisle, people pull in their legs to let you by. Or how strangers will say, bless you, when someone sneezes a leftover from the bubonic plague. Don't die, we are saying. And sometimes when you spill lemons from your grocery bag, someone else will help you pick them up. Mostly, we don't want to harm each other. We want to be handed our cup of coffee hot to say thank you to the person handing it to us, to smile at them and for them to smile back, for the waitress to call us honey when she sets down the bowl of clam chowder, and for the driver in the red pickup truck to let us pass. We have so little for each other now, so far from tribe and fire. Only these brief moments of exchange. What if they are the true dwelling of the holy? These fleeting temples we make together when we say, here, have my seat. Go ahead, you first. I like your hat. So I found both of those just beautiful. Here's the thing. I think it would be easy to hear that poem or Michael Moore's words, or even our mission statement, as simply a sweet, idealistic call to add and contribute some niceness to the world. But it seems to me that the call to kindness isn't just about adding something to the world, but resisting something as well. I think the call to kindness can also be read as a call to take seriously how seductive anger and hate can be. Or to put it another way, the first step to being kind is resisting anger and hate. Because all I know, by the way, is when I get angry or I feel hate coming, it goes into the committee in my head, and I am almost always blinded by it. Anger and hate are selfish emotions that refuse to share the stage with other emotions, especially kindness. So much so that I don't see the opportunities for kindness right in front of me, even for those little things like the poem talked about, handing someone a cup of coffee, or bless you when someone sneezes, or holding the door for someone. When we are angry or we let hate into our heart and our mind, we literally lose the ability to notice the opportunities for kindness that are right in front of us. And here's the thing for those liberals amongst us. We would be foolish to think we aren't being seduced to ever increasing anger and hate and resent. And in saying that, I'm not suggesting that anger is not a legitimate feeling right now. Rather, I'm saying that to be committed to kindness is to be wide-eyed about the ways anger shuts kindness out. To be committed to kindness is to be committed to resisting anger. The two go hand in hand, actually, and there is no other way. That's what I hear our mission statement actually calling us in this still small voice forward to pay attention to right now. Finally, the last part of our mission is serving needs greater than our own. All of these are important, of course, in this political moment, but this speaks volumes to the work in front of us. We are indeed called to serve the vulnerable. Our trans and non-binary friends and loved ones, people of color and poor women, all of those groups need us to understand and listen to their needs. There are real needs and concerns and worries, and we need to be strong and hold firm and get on our armor, as we will not let those we care about, those vulnerable to anger and hate being spewed by others, do more damage than it already has been done. So first and foremost, that is our work. But intertwined in all of this is something worth adopting. And that is, in addition to serving needs greater than our own to those most vulnerable right now, we also need to serve needs of those on the other side of the aisle. Our work is not just to serve those conservatives are hurting, but the real spiritual challenge, I think, is to ask ourselves, how do we do both? The question, it seems to me, is how do you protect and serve those being othered without othering other people? The only way to do that is to see that the call to serve needs greater than our own is a call not just to prioritize and focus on the needs of the vulnerable, but the needs of our so-called enemies equally as well. It's just so easy to see the actions of our political opponents as threats alone and ignore the hurt and needs underneath. The challenge, the unbelievably hard challenge, is how do you see those who are literally spitting on people, see them as vulnerable and hurting too? For instance, I keep thinking about someone who served in the military and who enlisted. They had like a grand and heroic purpose. They were engaged in saving their country from foreign enemies, and then they come back from active duty, and the only job available to them with a high school diploma is far less glamorous and less heroic one, usually in the service industry. And that is by no means to say the service industry jobs aren't meaningful. But to someone who's been called and told to think of themselves as a hero who protects the homeland, such normal jobs upon re-entry into civilian life leave a giant lack of meaning and purpose in their heart. I also think of the 57-year-old who worked on the assembly line that made dashboards for General Motors. But then that manufacturer closed and went to Mexico, that then went to China, and they were left without a well-paying union job. And they don't have the wherewithal to figure out how to retrain and repurpose themselves when they are scrambling to put food on the table and pay the electric bill. The question is, it seems to me, can we see their needs as our own? That, my friends, is our spiritual challenge. That, it seems to me, is what our mission statement is calling us to do as well. It's a lot, isn't it? So here's where it leaves me in the end. I want to share with you this fabulous poem by this woman named Valerie Carr. It's called The Sikh Prayer for America. In our tears and agony, we hold our children close and confront the truth. The future is dark, but my faith dares me to ask, what if this darkness is not the darkness of the tomb, but the darkness of the womb? What if our America is not dead, but a country still waiting to be born? What if the story of America is one long labor? What if all the mothers who came before us, who survived genocide and occupation, slavery and Jim Crow, racism and xenophobia and Islamophobia, political oppression and sexual assault, are standing behind us right now, whispering in our ear, "You are brave"? What if this is our great contraction before we birth a new future? Remember the wisdom of the midwife. Breathe, she says, then push. Now it is time to breathe, but soon it will be time to push. Soon it will be time to fight for those we love, Muslim father, Sikh son, trans daughter, indigenous brother, immigrant sister, white worker, the poor and forgotten, and the ones who cast their vote out of resentment and fear. Let us make an oath to fight for the soul of America, the land that never has been and yet must be. So I want you to take deep breath, friends, as many as you need, as many as it takes for you to get centered and strong, and then let's push. Let's push beyond just thinking of mindfulness as being in the present moment and instead see it as being present to our own foibles as well. Let's push beyond just thinking of practicing kindness as a sweet, idealistic call to add some niceness into the world, and instead see our commitment to kindness as that which keeps us wide-eyed to succumbing to our anger. Let's push beyond serving needs greater than our own to our usual suspects and instead see it as a necessity to offer the same care to our so-called enemies. Yes. So grateful to be in this hard and often painful place of contraction together, my friends. I can't wait to see what we collectively birth together. May it be so. Amen.
rise in body or spirit and join in our closing hymn, which is 121 from the Gray Hymnal. There are a couple of things about this hymn, and I first wanted to say on the second page, instead of saying sisters and brothers and being binary there, we're going to sing friends and neighbors. And then we're skipping verse 3. We are not going to build up the ancient cities. Maybe that ship sailed with the internet, the birth of the internet. But anyway, today we're not doing that. Skipping verse 3, all the other verses. Friends and neighbors.
Would you please join hands for the closing words? Whatever we can do or dream we can do, let us begin it. Boldness has genius and power and magic in it. May we ever be bold in our living and in our loving. Amen.
Amen.